from Case Western Reserve University in the field of social service administration. He is a licensed independent social worker. James works full-time as the Director of Early Childhood Services for a large nonprofit organization in Cleveland. He recently completed a 3-year certification process in the neurosequential model of therapeutics, which is a tool designed for helping traumatized children. James has been a working medium for 12 years and finds great pleasure in working with spirit. He has sharpened his own mediumistic and psychic abilities by studying with international known mediums. He teaches mediumship development twice per month. His ability to engage in spirit began at a very young age, but he did not build on these abilities until later in life. James is one of our ordained ministers here at the Church of Living Spirit and is also a member of the Lilydale Assembly. He has taught here this summer. And for those that weren't at the Healing Temple yesterday, we brought through 288 people yesterday morning, and it was quite the task. We had 20 healers show up. It was a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I was so happy to see Jim show up, because I haven't seen him heal in quite some time, and I was talking to him, and I was like, it's like that muscle memory, you know? You know, a healer, you don't forget how to heal, just like being a medium, I was telling him, it's that muscle memory. And it was an absolute beautiful thing, and it was so lovely to see him there, and I know you're going to enjoy what he has to say this morning. Jim Flynn.
Thanks, Nancy. I appreciate that introduction. It was an honor and a privilege to be in the Healing Temple yesterday. There's such camaraderie in there. It was amazing. It healed me. So, right? You heal others, you heal yourself. So today I'm going to talk about being a beacon, so being a lighthouse when it's not always so easy to be a lighthouse. And part of this topic for me came up because I kept thinking about how crazy the world is today. There's so much going on and so much happening all at once, and there's division, and there's 24-hour news cycles, and there's logarithms when you click on something and read it, and if you're emotional when you click, it reads that and it gives you more emotional things to click on. And so there's a lot going on out there today, and I think that my opinion is a lot of people are on autopilot. They take it in, and they're kind of in a reactive mode. They react to the world around them, and they're absorbing. We're all absorbing a lot every day. Noises, trends, opinions of others, feelings of others, and unfortunately I think sometimes we reflect that back like a mirror, right? And it's not intentional, it's just something that we do. And I think when we're bombarded with so much going on with crisis and division and uncertainty, I think our instinct is a retreat, right? Well, I'm just going to bury my head. I'm going to close my heart. I'm going to shut all the shades, and I just can't listen to this today. And I think that in times like this, or when we're feeling like that's what we want to do, I want to challenge that instinct, because I think it's a natural instinct. It's, you know, your brain's job is to keep you safe. That's what it's here to do. And so fight or flight is a natural way to react when we don't like what's going on, or when we're overwhelmed, or too much is happening for us. But I want to propose an alternative, because we're really not in danger when all this is happening around us. When the world is growing dark, our job is not to really curse the darkness or hide from it. We may have to go through a process first, right? I know I typically have to go through a process before I come around. But I think our job is really to be more of a beacon, or to be more of a lighthouse. And so I don't think we were made to be mirrors, really. I think sometimes we get molded into that. I think we're made to be like a lighthouse. And the reason I think that is because everybody's different. Everybody's got their own vibe, right? Everybody's got their own frequency and their own specific truth. And everybody's got their own purpose too, right? And so we want to be able to let our light shine. The metaphor of the lighthouse is interesting, right? Because if you think about a lighthouse, it stands there and it serves as a beacon. It doesn't stop the storm. It doesn't stop the waves. It doesn't change anything about the jagged rocks. What it does is it says, I'm here. I'm here for weary travelers. I'm here for people who need hope. to get through the storm, right? So it doesn't get rid of the storm. The storm rages on, but it said, here's some solid ground for everybody. And I want to say, too, that as I talk today, I'm not really talking about putting on rose-colored glasses and maybe denying a situation that you might be going through that's painful and that you want to hide from. I think when you start to look at being optimistic, it doesn't mean that you deny what's going on in front of you. It means that you accept the situation as it is, but somehow you find a way to make that situation work for you, right? So in the long run, I think it means deciding that your internal state, that's dictated by your values, your internal state, is going to be the thing that determines how you act versus the environment around you. So I want to explore that a little bit today, is how do we build that lighthouse within ourselves? And some of you, I know some people in this group, and I know you already have answers for that, so I hope that you can pick up some tidbits today. So I just want to point out that every choice you make, right, every word you speak, every action you take, it sends a vibe. It sends a wave into the future, right? And so for me, I think it's important that I'm trying to stay as positive as possible. I'm trying to be that light that walks into a room, right, that shines. And so I have to check my ability to be able to do that. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about what would the components of that, how do you build that lighthouse? And the first thing that I think you have to do is to first find out what your message is. What is the message that you send out to the world on a regular basis? I think your message comes from the truth. It comes from the truth of who you are. And so sometimes we have to find that out first, right? What am I all about? What do I like? What are the things that I'm passionate about? What ticks me off? What makes me happy? What are the things that I wrap myself in that I lose all track of time? And I think if we can find that passion, that's going to help us determine what our message is going to be when we start to go off into the world. I also think our wounds, even though we don't like them and they may have been painful for us, in another way they're a gift as well. Because I think that sometimes the deepest message we have comes out of the mess, right? So right now, a work situation I'm in, it's not easy right now, you know? And so when you're in a toxic workplace, the message might be about dignity, right? How do I move through this with dignity? How do I continue to shine my light when I really don't want to? If you're in a poverty situation and you overcame that, maybe your message is resilience. So I think sometimes looking at those wounds that we carry are also where our message exists. The last thing, too, is kind of like your perspective. So again, everybody's unique. Everyone's got different DNA. We have different victories in life. We have different defeats, heartbreaks. And if I try to sound like everybody else and not be unique, then you're going to miss my message, right? So I think, first of all, just kind of finding out what your truth is so that you can start to broadcast that truth. And once you start broadcasting, it's going to be really important that you're authentic, right? So I think the most powerful way to send your message is to be it. Talk is great, but people look at what you do. People look at your words, and then they look at your words second. They look at your actions first. And so if your mission is kindness, and that's the light you're trying to shine, yet you're in a restaurant and you're nasty to the service people, your message is smashed, right? No one's getting it. If your message is innovation, and you're working in a place where you can't be scared of change, yet you are, no one's going to get your message. So you have to start to live it before you can really send the message or broadcast your light. I think that takes courage as well. So, you know, being here is great because this helps with faith, right? You know, the opposite of fear is faith. And so I think we have to find a way to be courageous as we're being unique. It's not always easy to be unique. I mean, I remember when I first started doing mediumship, for the first year I couldn't say I'm a medium because I was scared of judgment, right? And after a while you kind of go, hey, no, get over that, right? If you're gonna be successful, you got to claim it. And so I think sometimes it takes courage to do that. I think kind of as an adjunct to all this, it's important to be connected to people. You know, we hear people say, I have to find my tribe. And I think that's true. I think we have to find that group of people that loves us no matter what. And I think that helps build on our courage. So again, it's another thing to kind of to work on. You're not going to get your message out to people if you're shouting at the world, right? If you're just shouting and you're angry. You send it by connecting. You send it by connecting with the world. And I think that starts small, and then you get larger as you start to connect. I also think there's a lot of inner work. And again, we probably could just talk about the inner work all morning. But I'm just going to touch on 3 simple things. I think in order for this light to shine better, I have to be full. So I always think of when I work with teachers, and I'm working with them, and they have to work with a lot of little kids, right? You got to have a lot of energy for that. You got to be there for those kids. And I always say, is your pitcher full? Because you got to fill a lot of little empty glasses all day long. And if your pitcher's not full, how are you going to fill those glasses, right? If there's nothing in there. And so I think the first thing is to think about, you know, is our pitcher full? And what do I do to fill it? One of the things I think we need to do is guard against our consumption, is what I'm going to say. So if you think about eating, if all I did is eat junk food all the time, and I ate very, very poorly, over time I would start to feel sick. I wouldn't start to feel really well. And I think it's the same with the type of things we take in, the things we read, the things we watch on television, the places that we put ourselves. Are you maintaining light when you're doing that? Or are you just taking in all this kind of information that leaves you in a bad mood? You know, you've heard of doom scrolling, right, on Facebook, when you just get on there and you're going, oh, look at this and look at that horrible thing, and oh my God, look what so-and-so's doing. Stop it, right? Don't do that. It doesn't get you anywhere. Or give yourself a time limit. I'm going to give myself 30 minutes of the news. I'm going to give myself 10 minutes of doom scrolling, and then I'm going to move on. And on top of that, you got to have positive input, right? What are some positive things that you're reading? Do you have like a daily kind of meditation book that you look at, a daily thought, something that grounds you? Do you take time to find peace where there's no noise going on in your head? So again, I call that guarding your consumption. I also think you have to practice self-compassion. I think a lot of people beat themselves up over little things. And again, for your light to shine, if you're beating yourself up, it's not going to shine. You're going to be down on yourself. So I think you have to, when you make mistakes, you give yourself empathy. And I think when you practice empathy with yourself, it helps you practice it with others. And again, it builds, right? Finally, I think what's really important to shine your light is to establish non-negotiable anchors. And what I mean by that is anchors of joy. So where are the joy spots in your day? Is it the cup of coffee that you have every morning? Is it the hike that you take? Is it time with your dog, walking your dog? And so you have all these anchors. I have a friend recently, and you know, she posted on Facebook, but it's a really positive post. And she was talking about, I want to clarify, I wasn't doom scrolling. And she lost someone in 2022 and had a really hard time with that. And everything I was reading that she did, she talked about her journey. It was a long post, but she talked about her journey. And I was like, oh my gosh, she learned how to play the cello. She started to learn how to draw. She put a group of people together that also were interested in drawing and had them over to her house. And she did all these things, and I thought she made anchors of joy. That's what she did. She didn't go in denial about, oh, this was a horrible loss, but she did do her best to try to say, hey, I'm going to try to get some things in place so that I can go on living. Next, I think we have to work at overcoming cynicism sometimes. I know for me, I do, when a lot of things aren't going so well, or when things seem to be falling apart. I think it's easy to defer to cynicism. And again, that's going to be like, if you think of a lighthouse and it has to shine through a window, and that's like, you know, if there's soil and dirt and grime on the window, the light's going to be dull. And that's how I look at cynicism. is how's my light going to get through that if I'm always kind of looking at the worst of things, or I've had a bad run and so now I start to think, oh, Murphy's Law, right? Everything can go bad if it will. So to clear that out, I think that you have to first start to be curious. And again, I think faith helps quite a bit to help clear this out. Just trusting that there's some higher thing happening in the universe and there's a reason that you might be going through what you're going through right now, but you're going to get through it. But I think curiosity over judgment's important, right? When I'm curious about something, I'm engaged. So instead of saying, what's wrong with that person, I might say, what happened to that person? I wonder why they acted the way they did. They must be in a lot of pain right now. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at doing that. When someone's really nasty to you, it's not your first go-to. You want to be nasty back, right? But you got to breathe, take that breath, and then ask that question. I wonder what happened to them, right? So remaining curious is going to be super important. The other is to focus on your who can you influence, right? And I think sometimes when people are wanting to give a message or they're broadcasting their light, they get overwhelmed with the idea of, I want to change this big picture. And that's great. You got to have a long-term goal. But you also have to have a short-term goal, right? And so you got to first influence locally, right? Who are the people around me that I can shine my light with, that I can help affect with my positivity? How can I create a ripple effect with the people that I know? And I think that's, I can't remember the bumper sticker, but it's like make change globally, act locally. It's something like that. And I think that's a powerful statement. Also too, in today's world, again, with all the multitasking and things that go on, I think of, if you think of the lighthouse, it doesn't get distracted. It's always there. It's always present. It's not looking around nervously for the next thing or saying, oh, hey, wait a minute. It's there. And I think today we live in a world of distraction. Smartphones. I mean, and again, I'm old. When I was growing up, there was one way to get a hold of me, and it was a phone that was on the wall. And if I didn't answer the phone, nobody got in a huff about it, right? But boy, today you better pick up that cell phone, answer that text message. And it's not just the one text message portal. There's Messenger, there's the one on your phone, and then there's a whole lot, you hear what I'm saying, right? There's your email. And so I think it's a bit much sometimes. There's a lot so we're constantly multitasking. And so I think today when you stop and you're present with someone, it's like a radical act of love, right? Because nobody does that anymore. And so I think it's a great thing to do. And I think it also sends if you're broadcasting your message and your light, it's going to make it that much more powerful because you're going to be noticed. You're going to be that person that, they always stop. They always listen to me, no matter how busy they are. That's powerful, especially in today's world. And then I wouldn't say the last part of my speech, but projecting the beam, right? What kind of action do I take? And I've kind of been talking about things we can do, but 3 more things before I kind of come to my conclusion. And one would be you're talking about your words and how powerful your words are. We know that negative words. So in my head, if I'm driving and someone cuts me off and I'm like, oh, you idiot. That word, that idiot word, it doesn't hurt the person in the car at all. But your brain does telegraph and code language. And it'll code what language is positive, what language is negative, and then that does create a vibration in your body. And so every time you're calling someone an idiot, your brain doesn't know if you're calling them or they're calling it to you. Your brain does not know. It just creates a vibe around negative or positive. So we try to create words that are a little more positive, right? I want to be encouraging to people. I want to bring warmth to this situation. I want to try to find the strength. I do this a lot because my background is working with kids, and then now I'm supervising folks, and we have a reflective supervision model, and it's really about finding a person's strengths, working with those, and then helping them to kind of work through their own problem solving. And I think it's been incredibly powerful because it involves directed yet very gentle speech. So I think, again, giving those compliments to people and and monitoring the negative words you might be using, and then just changing that a little bit, right? Going back to that curiosity. I also think that integrity is going to be really important. You think, again, you think of the lighthouse, it doesn't move, right? It doesn't change its mind based on which way the wind blows. And so I think integrity is kind of about sticking to who you are, being accountable for your mistakes, not being scared to say, yep, I screwed up. I'll do better next time, right? It's okay to say, oops. It's another thing we teach our kids all the time, right? They spill the milk and, oh no, it's like, oops, it's okay. It's not a big deal. You spilled the milk, we clean it up. And I think metaphorically, adults, we spill the milk all the time, right? We spill a lot of milk in our life. And it's okay. You don't got to beat yourself up over it. That's the good news. It's oops. And then we clean it up and we move on. And then also, there's an idea of generosity. And when I talk about generosity, money's great, right? We all like to get, sure, send your money. Money's great, but I'm really not talking about generous with money. I'm talking about generous with your time and having kind of an attitude of generosity, that there's enough for everybody. There's enough love. There's enough joy. I don't need to be jealous because I know that I have this thing and you can have this same thing too, right? So it's kind of having this belief that there's enough success to go around. And I think if you can get there, it dismantles fear and it dismantles your idea that I have to be in this competitive mode. I think our country is very competitive all the time. And we don't have to be. We don't have to live with that thing that dominates our culture. So really, it really is showing that it's safe to be kind, that it's okay to be kind and it's okay to be vulnerable. So, as I wrap up our time together, I want to defer to physics, and trust me, it's not my strength. Social worker, numbers, science, not so much. But I will say, simple physics is that if you go into a pitch black room and you turn on a flashlight, the darkness isn't going to be able to squish that flashlight, right? You're going to see the flashlight. And so the darkness can't say, I'm too heavy for you. It just goes away. So light, and metaphorically or whatever, by its very nature wins. And it's always more powerful than the absence of it. So we might as well have it, right? Because it's more powerful than the absence of it. So when you choose hope over fear, and kindness over cynicism, and presence over distraction, I think that incredible things happen for you and for others. Your light, your message, whatever that may be, and it could be anything, right? Maybe you embroider, and that's the thing that makes you happy, and so you project that out, and now you've got other people who follow you on that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be the big thing like I'm going to end all wars. It can really start simple. But when you give your light out and when you show your uniqueness, it gives people the permission to do that too. I also want to remind you that a single lighthouse saves many, many ships. It can save a whole fleet of ships, right? So I think by the same token, when we're that lighthouse, we can save families and communities and schools and those types of things wherever we happen to be planted. So I have just a little story about when I did some mediumship here a couple weeks ago. I was at Forest Temple and I didn't want to, it was one of those days where I was on the fence. Did I want to serve? Did I not want to serve? I was really tired, and one of my friends was the chair, and I was doing the should thing. I really should go, I like them, they're a chair, I want to be there for them. And I went out and I found my first words were kind of like, I'm really tired. It looks like you got about 5 or 6 mediums. Do you really need me today? And she was really, no, we don't need, no, if you change your mind, let me know. So I hung out and I changed my mind. And I said, is it too late? She said, no, you can do a couple. So, couple readings. I said, great. So one of the readings that I got through was a couple who'd lost their son. And they took all the evidence except the last thing, which I always hate, right? You want to end on a good note, right? And the message was something like, your son's telling me to go to the rocks, and that's where he's going to hear you talk. I didn't know what it meant. It's just, I just say what I need to say, right? It's my message, it's my light. And oh, I'm not sure I know what that means. Well, Forest Temple Lens, we're walking out. I happen to be next to them as we're walking out. And the mother turns to me and she says, I figured out what the rocks were. She said, every day, my son would go down to the river and he would find these rocks and anything that looked unusual, and he would bring them up and he would put them in my garden. She said, and they're still there today, and I talked to them. And then there was this pause, and she said, I'm so glad you were here today. There's the light. Who knew, right? Who knew? I was sitting there going, oh, rocks, Jim, you idiot. And here there was this, it was so meaningful to her. But, I get chills when people say things like that, right? I'm so glad you were here today. It's like, wow, So having said that, I want you to know there's never deny that there might be someone who needs to hear exactly what you have to say in the exact way that you have to say it. So they need your hope, they may need your clarity, your art, your wisdom, whatever it is, to help them get through a tough moment. And so again, don't let that fear, doubt, or the need to comply, don't let that silence you. Don't blend into the noise, be that light, clarify your truth, live boldly and speak clearly. And that's all I got today. So God bless you all. Thanks for listening and have a wonderful day.